Joining us now, MSNBC political analyst Juanita Tolliver and former Florida Republican Congressman Carlos Curbelo. So, Carlos, the latest CBS News poll shows the president with a 53% approval rating after his first 3 weeks in office. What do you make of that?
Jose, it means that the president is doing a lot of the things that the American people elected him to do. The coalition he put together wanted him to be this radical change agent. Now, that doesn't mean that he has free rein. We also saw in that same poll, for example, that while people support tariffs on China, they are less supportive of tariffs on our neighbors, Canada and Mexico. So how the president does what he has been elected to do matters. We're also seeing in how he reforms the federal government, right? How that happens matters. If they go too fast, if they act in a way that seems abusive or mistreating of federal employees, that could end up backfiring and hurting his momentum. But so far, so good in terms of the president's numbers. He has rarely had numbers this high.
Well, he's never had that number during his first administration. But Juanita, that CBS News poll also shows that 69% think President Trump is tough. 63% he's energetic, 60% focused, 58% effective. How do you explain this, Juanita?
I want to point out two other numbers, Jose, because 51% of those respondents also said they expect his policies to increase their prices, and 66% said that 66% said that they have concerns about how the fact that he's not giving enough attention to lowering the cost of goods, something that he promised and ran on doing, that he's not delivered on as we see prices increase, or as you and Garrett just talked about, the impact of tariffs potentially impacting consumers. That's what I think is an indicator that the public understands that, yes, Donald Trump is doing what he's promised in the harmful policies targeting undocumented people and shifting government and trying to cut costs in government. But every time he makes one of those steps, I think people are questioning how it's going to impact them. Is it actually going to improve their quality of life? Is it going to lower the cost of food for them? But also, it's an indicator that people understand that he's not delivering on one thing that they explicitly demanded of him, a change in their economic outlook. And so while he's enjoying 53% right now, while he's enjoying people saying he looks energetic right now, that's all based on executive orders and not any type of substantive legislative action that will truly improve their state of being.
You know, and Juanita, I mean, the president has been signing so many executive orders, taking all kinds of actions. I mean, in many ways, it's like Democrats and others are simply just deluged with all of this. Here's what some Democratic senators had to say about this over the weekend. Listen to this.
I think this is the most serious constitutional crisis the country has faced, certainly since Watergate.
We are in a crisis right now, and Democrats will use every tool possible to protect Americans, to drive down costs, to make us safer.
We are at a point where we are basically on the cusp of a constitutional crisis, seeing this administration taking steps that are so clearly illegal.
You saw there that that word crisis was utilized by all of them. Democrats are saying this is a crisis. Who is this a crisis for? And how should Democrats be responding to this?
It's a crisis for the people whose rights are at risk. It's a crisis for the federal and civic employees who are being targeted by the administration. And what we see right now is that state and local leaders in the Democratic parties are the ones stepping it up. Those are the attorneys general who have been in court day after day filing cases and lawsuits against Donald Trump and his administration for the way that they're being targeted, whether that's information at the Treasury Department that we've seen Elon Musk and his team gain access to, or if it's targeting of anti-trans language and civil rights abuses that are coming through these executive orders that are being stopped with temporary restraining orders in the courts. Now, Democrats, I'm glad to see that they're saying this is a crisis, and I'm expecting and looking for them to put themselves in between the Trump and Musk administration and the general public. That's something that I think we've seen state leaders in terms of governors and attorneys general calling on congressional Democrats to do more of. And so when they say crisis, I'm looking to them to actually Are they going to potentially engage in government shutdown in terms of the next negotiations on government funding bills? How are they going to step up and stop business as usual when they continuously emphasize that there is a crisis and people's needs are in play? You talked about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, right? Like, what are some of the demands that Democrats are going to be putting up in this next budget negotiation to protect the people from what we've been seeing from these executive orders?